Hi guys, today I'm back with the if function, and I promised in the last tutorial that we are going to go back to the if function. And for those who may not be familiar with the if function, the work of the if function is a logical function in Excel which checks for a certain criteria, and if that criteria is met, then it will give an output whether true or false. For example, uh, this data that I've prepared here is an Excel worksheet that shows the month from January all the way going to December, and there are expenses of someone who had put the expectation or the predicted expenses on airtime for each month, and he recorded his expenses as follows. The actual expenses on the monthly airtime are in this column, that is column B, and then the predicted expenses, what he had aimed to use, that is the capping, the maximum amount that he had capped to is contained in column C. Then we have introduced another column here for the sake of this example, whereby we have two statements here, which is over budget and okay. These are the conditions, or these are the output that we expect from the if function, or from this logical function if. So we are going to be writing an if function here, which is going to be checking whether this guy used more than what he had predicted to use. And if he actually used more than what he predicted to use, then the statement is supposed to give us an output of over budget. And if he used less amount or equal amount to what he had planned to use, then it will return a statement of okay. So this column here, I want to highlight it in a shade of a certain color so that you can be able to see it clearly. This column here is where you are going to get the statement or the output, whether that person used the correct budget, whether it was over budget or it was okay. So what do we do? Of course, the if function is also a formula. If you have not watched my previous tutorials on how to write formulas and etc., you can watch these tutorials on my YouTube channel, that is Silencer 254 Got Talent. So what do? We put an equal sign at this cell here, and our main aim is to compare this entry here and this entry here and check whether this entry here is more than what that person expected to use. So we say equals, then we put our if function right there, if function, then we open the bracket, and then we have the logical test. Our logical test, or what we are checking, is whether B2, because that is what that person used, is greater than C2, is greater than C2. So if B2 is greater than C2, that means that that person used more than the predicted expenses. So if that condition is true, then the value on the other side should be that that person was out of the budget, or that person used more than what he had planned for. So that one is supposed to give us an output of over budget. That is if that condition is true. But remember, the opposite of that should be false. So we also have to put another condition here and say that the output that should be there, if that condition is not met, is okay. That means that that person used a little amount or less amount of what he had predicted in the expenses during that month usage. Then we close the bracket at the head, and then we press enter, and you can see that our formula gives us over budget because this person used 1500 compared to the predicted expense of 900. For the sake of those who may not have gotten it in the first time, we are saying you start with an equal sign, put the if function, open the bracket. The logical test that we are checking is that whether this cell here is greater than this cell here, and then you're putting a comma, then I'm putting two speech marks around there, and that is where I'm going to put the statement which is true if that condition is met. The reason as to how you put them, we put that statement in between those speech marks is because we want to tell Excel that whatever we want as an output here is not a calculation or not a letter or a number, it is just a statement. So we say over budget, yeah, like that, over budget. And then if that condition is false, then so then the output should be okay, and then we close the bracket at the head, then press enter. So you can see he used less amount of money than what he had predicted, so it is okay. For the first one, it was over budget. So as you now know, you can be able now to copy the formula to all the other cells. There's no need of typing the formula again. So for those who may not have watched how to copy the formulas, you can now do it in the previous tutorials that we did. Then we copy the formula, we copy the formula all the way to down here. So it will give us the output for the correct one. So we have over budget, okay, etc. So that is a basic if statement, and it is a flashback of what we may have skipped earlier. But in the next tutorial then, I'll go back to showing you how you can be able now to use that if statement and add a certain criteria inside to maybe do some calculations on the rows that meet that certain criteria. But as always, remember to like this video, also subscribe to my channel. For any question that you have, put it in the comment section and I'm going to reply to you immediately. See you in the next tutorial.